John chapter 18. When Jesus had spoken these words, he went out with his disciples across the Kidron Valley where there was a garden. He and his disciples entered it. Now Judas, who betrayed him, also knew the place because Jesus had often met there with his disciples.
So Judas came to the garden, guiding a detachment of soldiers and some officials from the chief priests and Pharisees. They were carrying torches, lanterns, and weapons. Jesus, knowing all that was about to happen to him, went out and asked them, "Whom do you seek?" They answered, "Jesus of Nazareth." He said, "I am he." Judas, who betrayed him, was standing with them when Jesus said, "I am he." They drew back and fell to the ground again. He asked, "Whom do you seek?" They said, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus answered, "I told you that I am he. I am he. If you seek me, let these men go." This was to fulfill the word he had spoken. "Of those you gave me, I have lost not one." Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Jesus said to Peter, "Put your sword away. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?" Then the detachment of soldiers with their commander and the Jewish officials arrested Jesus and bound him. They brought him first to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year. Caiaphas was the one who had advised the Jews that it would be good if one man died for the people. Simon Peter, another disciple, followed Jesus. That other disciple was known as the high priest. So he went with Jesus into the courtyard while Peter stood outside at the door. Then the other disciple spoke to the servant girl who kept the door and brought Peter in. She said to him, "You are not one of this man's disciples, are you?" He said, "I am not." It was cold and the servants and officials stood around a charcoal fire to warm themselves. Peter also stood with them, warming himself. Meanwhile, the high priest questioned Jesus about his disciples and his teaching. Jesus answered, "I have spoken openly to the world. I always taught in synagogues or in the temple where all the Jews come together. I have said nothing in secret. Why question me? Ask those who heard me. Surely they know what I said." When he said this, one of the officials nearby struck Jesus in the face. "Is that how you answer the high priest?" he demanded. Jesus replied, "If I said something wrong, testify about what is wrong. But if I spoke the truth, why did you strike me?" Then Annas sent him still bound to Caiaphas, the high priest. As Simon Peter stood warming himself, they said to him, "You are not one of his disciples too, are you?" He denied it, saying, "I am not." One of the high priest's servants, a relative of the man whose ear Peter had cut off, said, "Didn't I see you with him in the garden?" Peter denied it again, and at that moment a rooster crowed. Then they led Jesus from Caiaphas to the governor's headquarters. It was early morning, and they themselves did not enter the headquarters so that they would not be defiled and to eat the Passover. So Pilate came out to them and said, "What accusation do you bring against this man?" They answered, "If he were not a criminal, we would not have handed him over to you." Pilate said, "Take him yourselves and judge him by your own law." The Jews said, "It is not lawful for us to put anyone to death." This was to fulfill the word Jesus had spoken, indicating the kind of death he was going to die. Then Pilate went back inside the palace, summoned Jesus and asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "Do you say this of your own accord, or did others tell you about me?" Pilate replied, "Am I a Jew? Your own people and chief priests handed you over to me." "What is it you have done?" Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world. If it were, my servants would fight to prevent my arrest by the Jews. But now my kingdom is not from here." Pilate said, "So you are a king then?" Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. For this reason I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice." Pilate said to him, "What is truth?" After he had said this, he went out again to the Jews and said, "I find no basis for a charge against him, but it is your custom that I release one prisoner to you at the Passover. Do you want me to release the king of the Jews?" They shouted back, "Not this man, but Barabbas." Now Barabbas was a rebel.